I'm Christopher McClure, IT Director for the Town of Hopkinton and host of Manager's Corner. Each episode, we bring you different faces from your local government and remind you that your local government is here for you. As always, we encourage you to visit us online at hopkintonma.gov, follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Google+, download our new mobile app. We want to hear from you. Let us know if you have feedback for this show, if you have guests you want to see. This episode, we actually have a special guest, Lou Sakin, the sealer of weights and measures. Welcome.
Chris, nice to see you again.
I'm starting to run out of department heads, so I thought I'd extend my circle.
Why not?
And I actually met Lou because he was looking to improve his web presence on the town website and came in. He's now set up with a smartphone. He's got his own webpage that he edits. Lou actually operates out of the inspectional services office at Town Hall, but he's kind of a freelancer and that he doesn't really have a place to land. But he's now on the web. What is a sealer of weights and measures?
The sealer of weights and measures is the individual that goes around, inspects the gas stations to make sure the meters at the gas stations are running correctly, are within an acceptable tolerance, that the merchant is not giving away too much gas, and that the consumer is not being shorted or cheated when he or she goes into the gas station. We also check scales that are in the supermarkets, pharmacies, and basically we inspect by law any item used for weighing or measuring in trade or in commerce. And we seek to make sure that there is what we call equity in the marketplace. The consumer is getting what the consumer pays for. The merchant is not losing money so that the merchant has to go out of business. And it's that balance that we seek. We inspect everything from very sophisticated pharmacy scales like Hopkinton Drug and the jewelry store in this building, to the 120,000-pound truck scale at McIntyre Loam in Hopkinton, the scales in the supermarkets in town, the scanners in the various retail outlets for their accuracy. On scanners, the national goal is a 98% accuracy. Massachusetts is, as a state, pretty close to that on scanner accuracy. When we started this program back after the Consumer and Merchant Protection Act of 1998, we were finding horror stories going in to do scanning inspections. One of the first scanning inspections I did in another community, I think we had an 80 or an 86% accuracy. We worked with that company over a period of time, and they came up to the standard.
Right.
We also inspect scales that are used in commerce in the various merchants for shippings. Basically, in Northbridge, Hopkinton, it would be on South Street.
Yeah.
The FedEx, UPS freight scales. Item pricing, we make sure that items that have to be priced are priced correctly, that signage is proper and not deceiving, that it's readable, and
yeah. So you're really working behind the scenes, making sure that Hopkinton residents are protected, and like you said, there's a level playing field, that they're getting the gas they pay for when they go to the gas station, that when it tells them they're getting 10 gallons, they're actually getting 10 gallons, and it's actually calculating the price per gallon and not
correctly.
Too high.
And when they buy a pound of bologna in the supermarket, that they are getting a pound. There's something that we call TARE. Products are sold in the United States by net weight, which means the wrapping is included in the price on that product. And we will go into a food merchant and make sure that the consumer is getting properly weighed merchandise.
Right, and it also protects the merchants in terms of, again, there's a level playing field, and that they're not undercutting, or that everyone is charging above board prices.
Correct.
Now, obviously this is a very, very important and kind of unseen service. Again, I've worked in government for 15 years, and I have very little idea of what a sealer of weights and measures, other than sort of a general notion. Is there any situation where a resident or business would interact with you directly or reach out to you directly?
A business would reach out directly if they, first of all, let me go back. We are required by law to inspect scales, meters, devices used in commerce once a calendar year in Massachusetts. If a gas station has to have its gas pump recalibrated, we get a call from the station owner or the maintenance company that they are at that gas station, asking for instructions about recalibrating that meter. So we would be in contact on that side. In a supermarket, if they have to have their the scale at the cash register, the POS terminal, or the deli department repaired and recalibrated, we get a call to come back in and reinspect. If a consumer has a complaint that the consumer thinks that he or she is being shorted at the gas station, there is a seal, either red or green, on the gas pump with a phone number. You call that phone number, a message gets passed to me. I follow up with the consumer, with the gas station, to make sure that if the problem is in fact a problem and not just a happenstance occurrence, that it is corrected. If a consumer feels that he or she has been shorted or cheated in a retail outlet, we get a call and we follow up on that particular complaint. On our website, there is a phone number, 508-377-3255. The consumer can call and leave a voice message that comes to me very quickly. We do respond to contact and calls from the consumers, and we do follow up.
So it sounds like you would encourage people to use the information on the seal when possible so that you get the specific information about the...
Absolutely. If a consumer, let's use a gas pump because this is the most common complaint. Somebody stops in at a gas station at 6 o'clock in the morning on a cold winter, still night, on their way to work to fill up. They lift the nozzle, they put it in the car, and before it starts to be display and work, the meter on the pump is jumping a little bit. We'll get a lot of calls about that, and there are lots of technical reasons because of weather, the cold, the fact that the pump has sat there all night and maybe not been used. We'll follow up, and 99.9% of the time, that jumping is an issue that we can't duplicate.
Right.
But we do get an awful lot of those calls. We will get a call from a consumer about going into a retailer where there is a sign that says 2 for $5. The consumer only wants one item. The consumer gets charged $3.29 for that item. All the sign says is 2 for $5.
Right.
That is a deceptive sign. The consumer can only be charged $2.50 for that item. If the sign says in clear, legible print that one item is at regular price, that satisfies that particular requirement. We get calls like that and follow up on them.
Right. Well, the thing to remind people with the smartphones and devices people are carrying around, people are empowered to document a lot of the stuff they're seeing
Oh, that
on
helps.
the source.
That helps. From a legal perspective, if we have to pursue a civil citation or perhaps a criminal citation, that documentation is what we would call prima facie evidence.
So definitely, if there's something you want to report, take a picture of the seal, take a picture of the offending behavior.
The offending sign.
And then visit the Sealer of Weights and Measures page on the town website. Shoot Lou an email, and it helps everybody out.
Absolutely. We had a situation a couple of years ago in another community where somebody believed he was being shorted on time at a self-service car wash. We followed up on it. It turned out the timing was correct, but the signage on the meters in the self-service car wash were improper. We ultimately had to take civil penalty action with the owner of that car wash with the support of the Director of Standards for the Commonwealth to make that particular merchant comply with legal requirements.
That was
We had photographic evidence,
Right.
which made the case.
Well, even nowadays you can take video evidence
Yes.
and capture and definitely put that to work, and the town is able to use that to help ensure that residents are treated fairly. And for businesses, is there an appeals process?
If there is a violation and we issue civil citations rather than criminal complaints, the Consumer Merchants Protection Act of 1998 gave the Division of Standards and local inspectors or sealers of weights and measures the ability to issue civil citations. If we issue a civil citation and the business does not feel that citation is proper, within 7 days that business can appeal to the Division of Standards. A hearing will be held in Boston. The hearing officer has the right at that point to uphold the civil citation, modify it, dismiss it, or if it is a spurious or a ridiculous appeal, double the fine. The business then has the opportunity within a particular period of time to appeal that decision to Superior Court.
All right, and people can send general questions to you regarding that as well.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, one of the things that interests me about your position, about government, especially in New England, is a lot of our institutions are very old. A lot, town meeting, predates, the United States as a form of government. And the sealer of weights and measures, I think you told me, is the third oldest profession in history. I won't ask you what the other two are on camera, but
All right, I appreciate that.
can you give us a little bit of a history lesson and talk about?
Yes, Massachusetts has the oldest weights and measures program, basically in the Western Hemisphere, going back to 1629, when the royal governor was declared by the king to be the sealer of weights and measures for the Massachusetts Bay Colony.
Wow.
In writing the United States Constitution, a couple of years later, there is a clause contained in it referencing weights and measures as a right reserved explicitly to the states. So there are 50 states and there are 50 state programs for weights and measures. The programs are supported by the Department of Commerce, National Institute of Standards and Technology, Weights and Measures Division on the technical side. There are, at this point, approximately 200 weights and measures officials in Massachusetts. State law requires that any city or town with a population of 5,000 or more shall have an inspector or sealer of weights and measures. The two terms, inspector and sealer, are interchangeable. Those towns that are over 5,000 that choose, for whatever reason, not to have a sealer of weights and measures, the state will assume that responsibility and the towns will be billed for the service. In Hopkinton, we keep control in Hopkinton by having, I guess, me as the sealer of weights and measures.
Right.
So we control our own destiny.
Right. Yeah. Well, it sounds just like having a good sewer system. Having a sealer of weights and measures is one of those fundamental things that allows government and commerce and things to work that very quietly happens behind the scenes. And I know we were talking offline a little bit. You're part of some regional groups that are looking to get the message out a little bit in terms of the role you provide and educate people in what you're doing.
Let's start with Massachusetts. Massachusetts has the state Massachusetts Weights and Measures Association. I'm a past president of that. There are 2 regional associations in Massachusetts. There is a national conference of weights and measures. There are 4 regional conferences of weights and measures. The NUMA, or the Northeast Weights and Measures Association, is the 9 New England states plus New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. Last week I was elected chairperson of the Northeast Weights and Measures Association. It's a one-year term. We have 2 meetings a year. At the national level, the national conference has 2 meetings a year. We are what I guess you could call a regulatory body. We publish 3 documents each year that in virtually all of the states, when they are published, have the force of law. When we are making changes to those documents, we don't do it on the fly. We follow, I guess, the federal procedure with proposals, open hearings. At our midwinter meeting, new proposals and changes to existing regulations, open hearings are conducted. The committees conduct those hearings at the meeting, then make decisions whether to move the item forward, keep it as an informational item, or withdraw or terminate it because it has no merit. It goes to the 4 regions. The 4 regions discuss those items at their interim or annual meetings, depending on how they have them, and make recommendations back to basically 2 committees at the national conference. The Law and Regulations Committee, which covers, as it says, law and regulations, method of sale, method of testing of products. The other committee, Specification and Tolerance, produces a handbook which is quite thick that gets involved in the testing of, keeping it simple, scales and gas stations used in trade and lots of other things. And I am involved at the national level on the Law and Regulations Committee.
Wow. So we'll encourage anyone with any interest in policy or any some of these regional and state and national groups to definitely reach out to Lou via his website and get involved. I see you've brought quite a few props, and I want to talk about that in a minute. One of the things that's impressed me about Lou is his sort of embracing of the new technology, while using the old technology, and he puts a lot of us younger departments to shame. Lou's already has a smartphone. He's taking pictures, video on scene. He's editing his own webpage. He's on Google+.
We need to be in contact with the people we serve.
Yeah.
And one of the things we try and convey at our state meetings, even our regional and national meetings, is that contact with the consumers and with the merchants is important. People need to know who we are and what we do, and that we play a very, very important role in commerce. In Hopkinton, as an example, last year we saved the merchants almost $25,000 by doing inspections. We saved consumers over $1,500. We report these figures annually to the Division of Standards. The division compiles this from the 351 cities and towns, plus what the state does, and makes a report to the legislature and the governor. And the figures that we produce just within Massachusetts on commerce are astronomical.
Wow. I want to talk a little bit about you personally for a second before we talk about your weights. I know you've had some background in dealing with computers and programming at different periods in time we've talked about. How long have you been in Hopkinton?
I've been in Hopkinton for 11 years this fall, and I've been a Weights and Measures certified official for 13 years.
Wow.
And let me point something out, Chris.
Sure.
You just don't walk in off the street and pick up a weight and start doing scales. State law requires that all Weights and Measures officials have to be certified, receive a basic certification within 1 year of appointment. That's understanding state law and regulations, policy and procedures, how to conduct small-scale inspections and gas station inspections. For everything else we do, we have training and we have to receive certifications.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. Well, tell us a little bit about the props you brought in.
Brought 2 sets of props. When we do a gas station, we just don't walk in with a tin can and, pour a little bit of gasoline and say, yeah, that's okay. We use a device like this or some variation on the theme, which is in larger communities mounted on the back of a trailer. We pump 5 gallons of fuel into that particular can, following a very precise national standard and procedure. There is a meter or a gauge on the front of the cans or even the rack-mounted ones. We pump the 5 gallons, we check the meter. We're hoping that it shows at 0 for 5 gallons. We have a very specific tolerance of plus or minus 6 cubic inches on 5 gallons. There are over 1,100 cubic inches in 5 gallons.
Right.
So you know how tight that tolerance is.
Right.
If the dispenser is out of tolerance or approaching the high or the low levels of tolerance, we will have that meter recalibrated and retested to bring it as close to 0 as possible. In a lot of the communities, we will work with the maintenance companies during the inspection to have their technicians there to assist us in solving any problems with the meters.
Right.
These little toys are stainless steel weights. All weights and measures officials have what we call a 30-pound kit that we take with us when we go to do the scales in a supermarket. There are specialized weight kits for doing scales in pharmacies and in jewelry stores or the gold buying places in the mall.
Right.
And we use the 30 pounds to test those scales. We just don't pick up, oh, let's pick the 5-pound weight.
Right.
Put it on the scale and say, yeah, that looks okay, and move on. We follow a very, very precise testing methodology, starting with some of the small weights and building up to the maximum load. By the way, the weights, the measure here, and all of the tools that we use are certified tools, traceable through our state lab to the National Institute of Standards and Technology in Gaithersburg, and their standards are traceable to the International Organization of Legal Metrology in France, which is the international body that works on those types of standards.
Right. And how often would, say, a gas pump need to be recertified?
Once a calendar year. We could be dumb and do it on December 31st and come back on January 1st. We don't.
Right.
And the same on scales or scanning systems.
Right. Are you seeing any changes in technology in terms of having to test, circuit boards and barcode scanners and other computer type systems that need to be regulated?
Circuit boards we do not test. We will test the entire device to make sure the device meets the use for which it was intended. If it does not, then we take appropriate action. Scales, in the old days, we could cut our wire seal, turn a little knob, and adjust it. With scales today in the retail environment, they are very sophisticated digital scales that can be calibrated at the scale, or if the corporate office is located in Seattle, Washington, they can download data to that scale here in Hopkinton. So we're going to make sure that that scale is accurate. If there is a problem, then we're going to pursue it with the retail outlet and, if as need be, with the corporate office.
Right.
On gas stations, in the old days, we could cut the seal, turn a little knob, do the adjustment. Today, the retail motor fuel dispensers have very sophisticated computer technology. I use somebody from the maintenance company who knows what they're doing with that technology. I know enough about computers to be dangerous, and I don't want to close down the gas station.
Right.
So I have them there to do the calibration.
Right. Wow. Well, as we close, Lou, is there anything else that you want to add?
I would add that if merchants or consumers have a question or a concern, to reach out to us at the number that I gave earlier, and it's, to repeat it, it's 508-377-3255.
All right, great. And as always, you can get more information about weights and measures at hopkintonma.gov. You can follow the town on Twitter, on Facebook, Google+, download our new mobile app. We would definitely want to hear from you. As always, I'm Chris McClure, your host of Manager's Corner, and I'll see you next time.
HCAM-TV showing movies.
That's right. Dive-In Drive-In's a new show on HCAM.
Join Mike and I as we present some B movies.
Movies that have piqued the two Mike's interest.
And not to mention, they're also free.
We'll give you some interesting tidbits about the cast and crews.
And point out some of the reasons these are classic B films.
So check out the HCAM-TV website at hcam.tv for movie names and showtimes.
I'm Dr. Stuart Chipkin.
I'm Dr. Barry Braun.
One of the best prescriptions for good health that any patient can receive is regular physical exercise, and it works for people of all ages.
Regular exercise helps to control weight, strengthen bones and muscles, and improve mental health, and reduce the risks of chronic illnesses such as heart disease, diabetes, and cancer.
You don't have to be an athlete to reap the benefits of physical activity. Moderate exercise like walking can improve your health and well-being.
Unfortunately, too many of us are inactive. Fewer than 2 in 10 get the recommended amount of exercise, and more than a quarter of adults get none at all.
If you're someone not taking advantage of the health benefits of exercise, talk with your doctor to see how you can start.
For more information on how exercise can improve your health, review the physical activity guidelines for Americans at health.gov.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Peralt, host of the program Meet Your Neighbor on HCAM-TV. This show introduces you to Hopkinton residents, the many interesting people who are our neighbors, and we invite them to share stories, experiences, insights, and observations from their lives. We'd like to hear who you think should be interviewed on our program. So if you know someone that Hopkinton should get to know more about, please email me, and stay tuned for more episodes of Meet Your Neighbor on HCAM-TV.
You're on public property. By law, minors aren't allowed to smoke in public. You're going to notify your parents. This is education material to inform you of being harmed.